Hi, my name is Hoovy, and recently I've been playing Warzone while aiming with a piano, but I kinda suck at it. So I've decided to challenge myself to improve enough to get a 5-kill piano game in Warzone. The only problem is that outside of actually playing Warzone, there's not a lot that I can do to actually improve my piano aim. I mean, what am I gonna do? It's not like I'm gonna sit here and make a video saying I spent 1 month aim training with a fucking piano. Now to start things off, let's knock out a couple reasonable questions that you might have. First, yes, I am insane, I play COD with a piano. I do this by plugging in my keyboard to my PC, and then I use a program called Bohm MIDI Pro to convert my piano inputs into keyboard inputs. That's the TLDR. And second, the aim trainer that I'll be using in this video is called Kovaaks 2.0. It's the aim trainer that was actually compatible with my piano, so that's the one that I'm using. Now to begin, I want to start out where my skill level was before my aim training. 1 month ago, my piano personal best in Warzone solos was 1 kill, so getting 5 kills with piano aim was gonna be tough. I should also mention that I set a goal to also get a 30 kill gameplay sniping in Black Ops Cold War. So I also sniped in a domination game with my piano just to test out my skill level, and I got a whopping 2 kills. I know, I'm kinda cracked at the game. Jokes aside, although it might sound kinda crazy to go from 2 kills to 30 kills, I really wanted to push the limits of what I could do on a piano. Now that we have a baseline, let's get into the actual aim training. First, it's important to keep in mind that aim trainers are only really efficient at practicing one set sensitivity, and they don't help you with game sense, like map knowledge or spawn knowledge in certain game modes. Now for me, I stick to 1 piano sensitivity across all of the COD games, and I already have the game knowledge required to reach my goals. On top of that, aim training was really going to benefit me in situations where I could have otherwise killed the person had I not been aiming with a literal fucking piano. Completely missed. Now to get into my routine, and to start, I want to talk about the 3 kinds of aim training practices that you can do. The first of these is click time practice. Click timing refers to the time that it takes to land the first click on your target, which means click timing practices are mainly going to train flick aiming. On the other hand, tracking practices focus on after you flicked your aim, where you actually need to track the various strafes and movements of your target with your crosshair. And lastly, target switching simply refers to when moving targets are on your screen and you need to change from one target to another very quickly. And this trains both click timing and tracking with a greater focus on the former. Now if you haven't already noticed, my piano aiming works a little bit strange. I use D and F for looking left to right and G and B to look up and down, with middle C being used to shoot. And since my aim works through button presses, my aim kinda just jumps a fixed distance every button press. This means that I didn't really need to worry about click timing practice because most of that training would just be me flicking over the targets instead of actually hitting them. I ultimately decided to focus on a target switching and tracking routine. This would help me with my centering and drag scoping while I was sniping, and it would also help in Warzone, where tracking would be of utmost importance with the high time to kill. Now as for the course routine itself, I had to gather some info on the practice courses that would benefit me the most. To do this, I chose to base my routine in many of the beginner practice courses from Aimer7's thesis paper on aim training. Is this shit MLA? This is a 14-page essay. I finally decided on a flexible 20 to 30 minute routine that used all of these different courses. You don't have to worry about what all of these mean now, as I'll explain each one later. As for why I chose such a short routine, after some tweaking, 20 to 30 minutes seemed to be a healthy amount of training, to where I was actually noticing improvement while also not giving myself early onset carpal tunnel. Doing this routine over the month, this would bring me to a grand total of 15 hours of piano aim training in Kovaaks, which, if you ask me, is around 15 hours more than anyone should ever put themselves through. But at the end of the day, with all of my planning out of the way, I knew that there was only one thing left to do, and that was to begin training. My first day of training was gonna be a baseline for all of the training going forward, but while starting up some routines, I immediately ran into a potentially game-ruining problem. Although it's difficult to explain why, in Kovaaks, my piano aim would basically hit random invisible boundaries where I couldn't aim any further forward. And on top of already buggy controls, this would prove to be a huge roadblock for much of my practice. My solution to it was simply to focus on only 180-degree variations of routines, as to reduce the boundaries as much as possible while also using my mouse whenever they did occur. And this brings me to my first routine, Close Long Strafes Invincible 180. This routine is a simple 60-second tracking routine with this target doing various long strafes within 180 degrees around the player. My score for day 1 of this exercise was just over 1800, which is really fucking bad. This would continue for my next tracking exercise, vertical long strafes, which involves this invincible target moving only vertically. This exercise was much easier to do because of all the linear movement, but I still ended up with a weaker score of 2394. I didn't keep track of my exact initial score for Fugla XY long strafes, but I easily had the most difficulty with this exercise. This exercise involves a target moving in any direction across a 2D plane, and because of my linear aiming with my piano, I struggled to even hit the target without using a mouse, finishing the map with a low score of 10. The final exercise I did on day 1 was Kata IC long strafes. This exercise involves this target doing longer strafes and even jumps around a much more dynamic map. From what I remember, I scored around a 10 or a 20 on this routine initially, which is again a really shit score. The next time I would record my scores for these routines would be in a couple weeks, which meant that in the meantime I would really need to spend time on these courses as to hopefully improve my scores for next time. First of all, I helped to better establish some goals with my aim training. I wanted to ultimately improve my hand-eye coordination and muscle memory, and also get a more intuitive feel for my piano sensitivity. Practicing with these ideas in mind would help me get better at naturally aiming without focus, meaning that I could focus more on the game rather than my aim. And as for the actual courses themselves, just practicing with these tips in mind, there was already a massive improvement in my scores. This easily shows the most with Kata IC long strafes, but Fugla XY long strafes is the one that I'd like to talk about. I spent a lot more time on this exercise, and I began to figure out a pattern. Because of the fact that the target moves more horizontally than it does vertically, I could basically just sweep a section of the map horizontally, tracking its strafing, and then I would adjust up and down depending on what I knew my piano could track. This meant that I wouldn't always hit the target, but it allowed me to triple my old score with a new score of 33. But now that I had my scores improved, I knew that the only way to see my improvement was to actually test out some piano sniping. After my first game, I managed to get 7 kills on a map which I've never played before. Then I played another domination game on Express where I got 6 kills, and a final domination game on Nuketown where I got a total of 16 sniper kills with a piano. This was huge. 8 times as many kills as I started with, and over halfway towards my goal of a 30 kill sniping piano gameplay. For my last 2 weeks, I decided to include a target switching routine called Bounce 180 Tracking, a routine that features a bunch of bouncing balls with really low health. This proved to be a really difficult exercise for me, where I ended off my training with an incredible score of 3. But even if I didn't do well on this course, the skills that I learned would help to carry over my tracking to the other courses. For close long strafes, I finished off my month with a final piano score of 3636. Vertical long strafes, I completed with a new score of 5166. For Fugla long strafes, I trained my newer approach more, getting a final score of 39. But by far the most peculiar case of improvement was Kata IC long strafes. After practicing this course more, I learned that there was a certain section that I could aim at where I could hit both the upper levels and the lower levels of the map. And so, during my final run of Kata IC long strafes, I managed to kill not 1, not 2, but just shy of 3 targets, ending my month with a final score of 324. Now let me get this straight, alright? All of these scores are absolute dog shit, don't get me wrong, but for aiming on a piano with a realistic sensitivity, I'd say I improved my intuition and my muscle memory by quite the margin. But you probably all still have one question. Did aim training make me a piano aimbot in Call of Duty? Let's be honest, it didn't, but I'll let you be the judge.
Oh my god. Wait, give me a fourth, I could have just hit a quad head on a fucking piano? I can't believe that. I could have just hit a quad feed. Oh, I can't play the game. They're gonna think I'm hacking.
What the f is that movement?
How many kills? 35? And I went positive? Let's go!
While my best Warzone gameplay plays in the background, I wanted to let you all know that ultimately this is kinda just a meme, and although skill-based matchmaking definitely played a huge role, I do think that there were some prominent improvements made by piano aim training, especially for Warzone. If you did enjoy this video and you want to share this video with a friend, that would seriously help me a ton, as this video took a month and a half to make, and I just want people to watch it and enjoy it for what it is. And if you want to see more from me, you can scroll down, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the bell. Seriously, thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and have a good one.
It's coming up here.
Damn.